Hey everybody, welcome back to Learn with PARQA. I'm Chanel.
And I'm Travis.
And we are here with another episode to talk shop about all things digital transformation and performance marketing for the staffing industry. I think right now what we are seeing with a ton of our clients and just with the market in general in staffing is that the classic pendulum has, as it swings from candidate focus to client focus and back and forth, right now that spotlight is really around client demand generation. That's where our industry is macro struggling right now, more job orders, right? And so what we wanted to focus on this week was all around client demand generation, some topics, some tactics, some strategies that you can start to think through or think further through, maybe depending on where you're at in your journey. So that's going to be the focus of this week's video. Travis, anything to add?
No, Chanel, you mentioned the pendulum swinging, and staffing, and I tell everybody all the time, there's never an equal balance, right? There's always either a lot of candidates and no jobs, or a lot of jobs and no candidates, and it changes pretty quick. We saw in the Bullhorn Grid report for the first time this year, for the last few years, that client acquisition is number one versus the candidate side of things. So, I talk to a lot of staffing firms all day, every day. And I can tell you all of the conversations I'm currently having are around client demand generation.
Absolutely. So we have a few different topics we want to touch on today. The first of which is probably the most straightforward and the most commonly thought of, and probably the least important of the topics that we're going to cover, but it is all around lead generation, right? I think everyone understands the importance of lead generation. New leads are the lifeblood of new business, right? And there are a lot of different strategies and tactics you can take, a lot of different channels you can use for lead generation. But one of the most important things that we find when it comes to lead gen is just around having attribution in place so that you know all of the different channels and mediums that you're using to get those new leads, whether they're candidate leads or client leads or a mix of both. Making sure you have measurement in place to concretely track, okay, we're getting X hundred number of clients or candidates through this specific medium, looking through the entire journey to see, okay, how are they converting, right? I think lots of people get thousands of new applications, and that's a lead from a candidate standpoint from Indeed, but you might only place 2% of them instead of maybe going to a different job board with higher level quality, that you might get fewer applications, but way more placements. And at the end of the day, placements matter way more than applications, right? And so we at PARQA really like to think holistically about not marketing metrics, not vanity metrics of just lead gen, but it's tracking them through the funnel and figuring out where are they falling off? Where do we need to nurture them more? Which actually leads into our next point, which is all around automation. So Travis, you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Automation is another hot topic here in the staffing and recruiting world. Another Bullhorn stat coming back from Engage a few weeks back, seeing that only 19% of staffing and recruiting firms currently use automation. In the retail world, that's 100%. So big opportunity there, but leveraging your systems, your technology, making sure that you have clean data as you do lead generation, you get those leads. How do you nurture them? How do you automate the follow up? How do you make sure that you're staying in front? Automation's key, right? It's key to increasing your billings per recruiter, per salesperson, taking those, time consuming tasks that can be automated and making sure that you're leveraging the tools and the tech to increase the time that your sales and recruiters are spending with what we call revenue generating activity. So it's very important.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say we see it far too often that people are only focused on the lead gen piece and not, okay, now that I have these new names in the CRM or in the ATS, how am I going to go methodically and strategically communicate with them to bring them down the funnel, right? Now they know who we are. They understand, maybe they're interested in working with us, but how do we close the deal, right? We like to say ABC around here. How do we get them through to that point of conversion where they understand, here's our competitive differentiation. Here's why you should work with us. Here's what we can offer you, candidate or client. Here's how we can solve your career challenges or your business problems as an org. That's where automation really comes into play. And if you kind of wrap up both of those components and a few components beyond that, our third piece is all around ABM. And Travis and I actually hosted a different Learn with PARQA all around ABM, or account-based marketing. And so Travis, can you just give us a refresher on what ABM programs look like for some of the clients that we're working with right now?
Yeah, the quick and dirty is just really understanding your clients, your end users, and being able to deliver personalized messaging that's on message. It's the timing's right. Like it's just a much more focused experience for your accounts versus just the general outreach that typically happens. So, being able to segment your data, understand client size, industry, things like that, being able to market to them specifically based on their individual um, attributes, right? So, being able to focus your marketing efforts to them is really important, right? So instead of general messaging going out, being able to personalize it and make it just more familiar to them. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and to touch on that real quick too, I think I hear a lot automation. We've talked about automation and personalization. I think sometimes people think you lose that personalization
Yeah.
through automation,
And
and
it's
that's
either
simply
or.
right,
Right.
but it's simply not true. As we talk about a lot, we hear the term white glove service, right? And the reality is you can't give white glove service to 500 candidates. It's not possible, right? So being able to use automation for those tasks that don't require the personal interaction, but still maintain that personal interaction is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've been running a lot of these programs to help our clients generate client demand. We'd love to chat with you. If you guys have more questions, feel free to reach out to Travis or myself on LinkedIn or visit parka.com to learn more. Otherwise, we will see you next time at our next episode of Learn with Parka.